Welcome to the Get Real Movies podcast. My name is Daniel Chadwick-Shubat. I am your host, and this is episode 14, where we will be talking about the new release Saturday Night. Mason is once again back. I'm very happy to have him back from his little visit away while we were talking about The Apprentice, and I totally understand him wanting to avoid any election talk, so I won't bother him. But Mason, how have you been doing?
I've been doing great. Thank you for asking. I appreciate the opportunity to not speak on politics so close to a particular date upcoming. So I'm so glad that we got to talk about something else much more fun and enjoyable this week. Always good to see your face.
Yes, always good to see you as well. I've been looking forward to talking about this movie since I've seen it. I was excited to hear your thoughts as well, but that's coming up a little later in the episode. Before we get into that, as always, tell us a little bit about what you've been watching this week.
Sure, we'd love to. Whenever we talk about this section, I feel bad because I'm not usually watching things that are like cutting edge or coming out new. I'm watching things that have been out for a while that have been on my like catch-up list. So I am watching the new stuff like The Penguin, which is excellent, and the Agatha All Along, which is, fun. But what I've been really diving headfirst into has been the White Lotus on Max/HBO/HBO Max/ whatever it chooses to be the next day. And it is something, it's rich white people problems, the show, and there can be something weirdly intoxicating about that, but a lot that is eye-rolly about that. So not everybody's cup of tea. I'm still kind of on the fence in terms of if I like it or not. What about you?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned The White Lotus. I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard similar to what you said, rich white people, the show. But we just watched, my girlfriend and I, we just watched a show called The Perfect Couple that is very similar. It came out on Netflix, and it's very similar, but it's only 6 episodes, so not a huge time commitment. It was a little bit fun. Twisted turns, it was good. It was good fun. It wasn't something that I would rant and rave about for weeks on end, but I did enjoy it and I had fun with it. I'm a big Liev Schreiber fan. Nicole Kidman does great work as well, and there's a great cast there. In terms of films, something that I watched recently was Woman of the Hour, which was Anna Kendrick's debut that came out on Netflix. Super weird movie. Made me feel very, very uncomfortable. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet.
It's Anna Kendrick's debut as what, director?
Director. Yeah, sorry. Her directorial debut. And it was just a very weird film. Not something I expected from her, which I think is a kudos to her. But it was not a film I'd ever watch again. And I think it's kind of middle of the ground for me, but it's something that I still have to kind of think about a little bit because it was so weird, and maybe that's a good thing and maybe it's not, but I'm still impressed. It's not something I saw her doing, and I think she did a pretty stand-up job for her debut, and it'd be interesting to see her in the future because when you think Anna Kendrick, you usually think Pitch Perfect and those sorts of films, but
like quirky, fun kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And this was anything but that. So maybe this is a new kind of part of her career, and I'm interested and open to it. Was there a movie that you've seen over the last few weeks that you want to recommend, or was it just The White Lotus?
So in terms of movies, again, I've watched nothing cutting edge. But I did see I saw The Dumbest film the other day. It is a lot of fun, but the unbearable weight of massive talent with Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal. I mean, it's not going to win any awards. It came out years ago, but goodness gracious, the chemistry between the two is just infectious, and I can't help but love it. But I'm just rolling my eyes the entire time through the movie because it's just so dumb. But in a wholesome, fun way. So, I would recommend it, but just don't expect anything like highbrow by any means.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say that I've heard really good things about it. I haven't watched it yet, but when it came out, it was something that a lot of people were talking about. So that is one that I will eventually get to. And by the way, you keep, underselling yourself about not watching new stuff. These recommendations, they don't need to be new. We're recommending things that we think the audience might like. So I'm very happy to hear about old movies, new movies, 3 years old, 20 years old, a month old. So we always appreciate it. Yeah,
I understand that. I appreciate that. I feel like this movie season, this year's movie season has not been bombastic. Like there have been hits, there have been the massive releases, but they have been far and few between. And it's been a lot more kind of like subtle releases, like Heretic, the A24 release that just came out. I saw that a little while ago, and that was incredible. But it's not really getting a whole lot of coverage, really. And the same with what we're talking about today, Saturday Night. I have a lot of feelings on this one, but this one should have gotten a lot of coverage just given the topic it's covering. And like it's a very limited release. Like I struggle to find a good release. It's not getting a lot of press. It's just something either in this year or in the industry is changing, and a lot of films are not getting the light of day. So I just find that curious.
Well, I've heard really good things about Heretic. I'm a big Hugh Grant fan, for all his faults. But
what do you say? I say good day. Yes, that's my terrible Hugh Grant impression. Just him stammering.
That was perfect. That was bumbling as could be.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Heretic. It is something that I want to watch, but it's the same here. It's very hard to find these films. Even Saturday Night, which we're talking about soon, was only in my local theater for a week. And now you have to go 30, 45 minutes just to find a screening. And I think it's too bad when movies like this are only in theaters for a week. But one last thing before we get into the review of Saturday Night Live, I just want to say I'm very, very excited for this film. And it is not what you think, even though I am excited for Gladiator 2, and that's coming out in a month. But I just want to make sure everyone knows that Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl, is coming out in only a couple months' time. And this is probably the last one because I think they've run out of clay from what I've heard.
I heard that too. Yeah.
Everyone, it's coming out on Netflix. Please keep that on your list.
It's like Paddington 2. It's just like one of those movies that you wouldn't expect to be a masterpiece. But the Wallace and Gromit films are great. Like Chicken Run was fantastic. I love that studio.
I love that you brought up Paddington 2 because I know that was mentioned in the movie that you just mentioned.
It is mentioned in The Unbearable Weight, yeah. But I have seen it, and it is fantastic. It is a wonderful film.
It is.
But no, I mean, Wallace and Gromit has got absolute undeniable charm.
Yeah, and I think that as adults, you learn to love really good kids' films even more because they bring you back to your childhood. So when there is a really good one, you just want to enjoy it.
Yeah, wholesome fun without it being preachy, right? It's just wholesome fun because It's wholesome fun. It's nice.
Exactly. So without further ado, I'd like to let you open up the floor here with your review of Saturday Night. So, Mason, what did you think of the true story behind Saturday Night Live's first ever screening?
Well, thank you for the floor. And I will say for our audience listening, this really is my favorite part of working with Daniel because so often we talk about the films that we're going to talk about, but more often than not, he's suggesting to me like, hey, do you want to see this film or do you want to see that film? And then we work through there. And a lot of times it can be like stuff that I wouldn't go out of my way to watch. But then when I do, like, so sometimes I just despise it. I think it's terrible. Like say Trap. I would not have spent money to watch Trap. And then he convinced me to watch Trap. And I wish I had gotten my money and my time back. Saturday Night, I, again, would not have gone to theaters to see it initially had he not told me to. And my goodness, this might be like legitimately my favorite film of the year. And I know what I was saying earlier about how it's been a muted film year, but like we have the Deadpool and Wolverine, we have the Heretics, we have good films this year. But I absolutely adored this film. I really did, and I wasn't expecting it. Jason Reitman, son of the late, great Ivan Reitman, who directed this film, has shown a real acuity for human emotion in chaos, like with the Ghostbusters, like with Juno, and he's been able to really pull that together on the screen. And one thing that really strikes out to me throughout this entire film is that there is so much happening at one time. It's like an I Spy kind of book where you are trying to like look not at just what's happening right front and center at the screen, But at everything else, because there's so many moving parts, I cannot imagine the amount of choreography that went into setting up all these pieces, all these dominoes, just to knock them over in sequential order. It is absolutely fantastic. The film is wonderful. The performances are great. There is a constant tension that is brought up. It reminds me a lot of Uncut Gems, the recent Adam Sandler movie from a few years ago, where there was so much like overlapping dialogue and it's so chaotic, and you as the viewer are feeling stressed just as the characters in the film are, because you're like, can we just figure out what the hell is going on? The exact same thing is happening here in Saturday Night, and for good reason. The production of Saturday Night, even today, is notoriously chaotic at the best of times. And though I'm not really a big fan of the last 20-ish years of Saturday Night, like back in the day when you had the late greats, like the Chevy Chase, the Bill Murrays, the John Belushis, like that, they had fantastic talent on there. And this really goes to show how they were able to do that. Like, these people were nobodies. They were a town of misfit toys that were brought together, and despite all of the dysfunction in the world, had true raw talent that was cultivated by Lorne Michaels and others. And it's just put wonderfully together on the screen in a very tight, under 2 hours film that I never found myself being bored or saying like, when can I go to the bathroom or whatever. I was just waiting for the next big set piece. There are a lot of like one cut shots that are going like for a couple of minutes through all of this chaos, but they're not like in your face like something like a Daredevil fight scene would be for those who watch the show, which I love, by the way. But they're just there, and they're well done, and they're well produced, well acted. Like speaking of the acting, I feel like the actors they chose to showcase this old talent, like Lorne Michaels, like Dan Aykroyd, like Chevy Chase. I mean, let's talk about Chevy Chase in particular. He's a complete asshole, but he had undeniable talent back then, and the guy playing him did a great job of bringing that together. Acted him well. He was hilarious, but god damn was he a dick. And he put that together very well in the movie. And same with everybody else. They just totally understood the assignment. And I really just got to give props all around. I adored this movie, and it was made all the better because I wasn't expecting to. I thought it'd be fun. I thought I'd enjoy it, but I wasn't expecting to love it, and I loved it. That's my soapbox. Top that.
Well, I think you've just pretty much taken every single word out of my mouth, and you've somehow gone into my brain and plagiarized, but that's okay. And I'm very happy to hear it. I'm very happy to hear that we are both on the same page where I am completely in agreement. This is not maybe my favorite film of the year. This is my favorite film of the year by a country mile. This movie is just put together so beautifully. And I listened to an interview with Jason Reitman recently. I think it was just before I watched this film. He was talking about the difference between his movies and his dad's movies. And he said his dad's movies are like hearing your favorite song, but played in a different way that makes the song even better. And his movies are like hearing your least favorite song, but having them played in a way that you actually like. But this movie is the complete opposite. This is more like his dad, and it is so different than a lot of his work that he's done recently. You mentioned Uncut Gems. I think this is like Birdman, Uncut Gems, and Animal House all in one film. And Animal House is an Ivan Reitman film, so
it's a
lovely.
great movie. Yeah.
And I think this was the last screenplay that his dad ever read. And his dad was actually a rival of Lorne Michaels at the time. They were like competing comedians when it came to a lot of this stuff. And I think he was a little frustrated at first why his son was making a movie about his rival. But once he read the screenplay, he was like, this is amazing. And, I feel sorry for Jason Reitman that his dad didn't get to see this, because this is, I think, my favorite Jason Reitman film. I love Up in the Air. I love Juno. I even like Men, Women, and Children. I think that he does a lot of really introspective films that are, from what I've heard, quite semi-autobiographical, but they show this variety of different emotions. And I think he's really good at just capturing that human emotion at its most vulnerable. But this movie is just pure fun. Like you said, It just keeps going. It's very snappy. It's about 109 minutes, like you mentioned, under 2 hours. And I don't think there was one moment I was bored. I had so much fun. Everything from Chevy Chase and Milton Berle having a literal dick measuring contest, which is hilarious considering J.K. Simmons is playing Milton Berle.
I could see J.K. Simmons just like that, not even being prosthetic.
He's having so much fun. He's having so much fun with it. You could tell, right? And then Dylan O'Brien is great as Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd, one of Canada's famous actors. We love him here, and I think he's just a great representative of us. He actually grew up near where I'm from in Ottawa. He went to university here before he dropped out to become a comedian/actor, which we're all happy he did. But I think it's just filled with great performances from top to bottom. Willem Dafoe is fantastic as well. Gabriel LaBelle, who is very young, does a great job as Lorne Michaels. And I also thought that Rachel Sennett was great as his wife/partner in crime. Just from top to bottom, I love the film. Jason Reitman did a fantastic job. This is by far my favorite film of the year. I'm not sure anything's going to top it. I am seeing Conclave next week, though, so who knows? Maybe a film about the Catholic Church will beat it.
That movie's going to be, fine, but I'm shocked to hear you say that, though. I thought you were, Gladiator 2 all the way. Like, you had already chosen your movie of the year, even though you haven't seen it yet.
I'm excited for Gladiator 2, and I can't wait for it, and I hope it's as amazing as I want it to be. But so far, Saturday Night, I think, is the best I've seen, and I don't see anything really beating that. But I would be very happy if something did. I do want to mention, though, before I let you chime in again, that you keep bringing up Trap about how much you hated it, but you do bring it up a lot. So maybe it was worth seeing because it really obviously occupies your thoughts a lot. And
you know what else occupies my thoughts a lot? Trauma. You know what I have to talk about a lot to process? The terrible things that have happened to me. And you put me through that. You're right. I do bring it up a lot. You're right. I shouldn't bring it up as much because it deserves to be forgotten from time. However, I'm not to that stage yet, and I will not apologize to you or Canada for continuously bringing it up. Trap is a terrible movie. You brought up Gabriel LaBelle. You know, it's weird how he's kind of been typecast into this, historical retelling role, because he had Steven Spielberg in The Fabelmans, and now he's got Lorne Michaels here in Saturday Night. That's a very bizarre, very specific slice of pie for himself. But I mean, more power to him. He's knocked both roles out of the park. I think he did fantastic.
Yeah, he's played two of the most famous Jews, I think.
Yes, L'chaim, my brothers. Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome.
But
he's Canadian too. All these actors coming from Canada.
Canada, yeah.
Yes.
We generate some real good ones once they come out of the cold water under the
I love
ice.
how you say Dan Aykroyd is your great representative of Canada when he's not hawking his, what is it, tequila and aliens or whatever else.
Vodka. And he loves UFOs. What's wrong with that? That doesn't hurt anyone.
You know what? You're right.
Benefits the economy. Hurts nobody.
Him going after UFOs benefits the economy? We'll have to have a different podcast on that. We'll have to explain that one. So you saw this in theaters, and you were talking about how you had a difficulty finding a showtime as well. What was your theater environment like? Was it packed, or was it just a few? I had only a few really old people in mind, and then there was me.
Yeah, so I think this is a big reason why I did love it, because I was able to focus on it. There weren't many people in the theater, which I think is very sad. I think that I'm going to ruin my rating right now. This is a run to the theater. Catch it if you can in theaters, and if not, catch it the moment it comes out on VOD. This is a must-see. My theater was quite empty, and I just got to live in the movie for 109 minutes, and I think that this is the sort of movie that you're probably not going to have a lot of the younger movie-going crowd going to, which I think is sad, because I think this is, if you're a budding filmmaker or someone who loves film and potentially wants to make film, in the future, this is the type of film you want to watch. And sadly, my theater wasn't that full, but it made my theater experience much better. So it's a weird toss-up, but I think that this movie is the type of film that you can enjoy, whether it's a full theater or an empty theater. Yeah, a year after my favorite film of last year came out, The Holdovers, I found another favorite film, which is Saturday Night.
I mean, that's great to hear. I also had a similar experience where, like I was saying, it just a couple of old people and me. It was a very empty theater, and I agree. That's sad. I didn't enjoy that as much as you because I wanted it to be like a bonding experience in the audience where we're just like all laughing at the craziness and insanity of what it takes to put on something like Saturday Night Live, especially when it wasn't an established foundation like it is today. You can say what you will about how it is today, but the fact that they were able to pull it off at all, especially on the cadence that they have done for the past, 40 years, is nothing short of incredible. And seeing everything that it takes to make something like this, like imagine the absolute will it takes to continuously put chaos like that on. I just think this film captures perfectly. I had a great time. I wish I had more people in the theater with me to wow, did he really say that? Or like, wow, Chevy Chase really is a dick. Or like, wow, Dan Aykroyd is getting with Lauren Michaels' wife. Like, what's going on here? I just think that it would have been a great bonding experience.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I would have been so happy if more people had been in the theater. I think it would have been really fun. This film is, from what I've heard, pretty spot on. And whether you like SNL now or not, I'm in the same boat as you. I think it's gone really downhill. But to be still running it all these years later, 50 years later, pretty much, Lauren Michaels it's just crazy that he does this every Saturday night. And maybe he's not as involved as he was maybe in 1978, and maybe you trust people to do certain jobs now, but you got to give him kudos for that. And you don't really realize what goes into it until you watch something like that, or maybe you've gone to a live taping.
I think he still gives like final sign off on the talent, like on the actual actors there. But as far as like him being involved in the day to day, I mean, he's so old. I can't imagine he's that involved as he is in the movie. But he's still there.
No, exactly. Yeah, but I think that Gabriel LaBelle puts in a great performance. I still haven't seen The Fabelmans, which is, from what I've heard, a big miss. I know I have to watch that because I'm a huge Spielberg fan, especially with it being sort of a memoir almost.
Yeah.
His memoir film.
It's good. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's good. I would recommend it.
Yeah. Well, I don't miss many Spielberg films, so it's something I definitely want to watch, but this is a cast of people that are going to be on our screens for a long, long time. I do have to give a special shout out to Corey Michael Smith, who played Chevy Chase. I thought he was really perfect, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in future things. And then Rachel Sennett as well.
Yeah, Rachel Sennett was great.
I know she's really, her stock is rising and rising. And Nicholas Braun, I think that's one you have. He played Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson, and as someone who loves him in Succession, I adore him in Succession because he makes me cringe nonstop. But he's so good at it, Cousin Greg.
And he was inexplicably like double cast. Like, why was he double cast? Yeah, bizarre. But no, he was great though.
I don't know, but it was perfect. Honestly, it was inexplicable, but it was perfect. So
anyway, more power to him. So you did already spoil it, but just for officials run of shows, tell us your official grade of this film. Would you go to the theater? Would you wait for VOD? Would you?
Sorry for spoiling it.
Yeah, it's okay. We will collectively forgive you. Me speaking for America specifically.
Gosh, we're still doing this, eh? 10 years later. Something that Mason and I forgot to mention to the audience. We are now past the 13 episode mark, which means that we've outperformed our first iteration of this podcast. And
we made it,
still
baby.
All about a rivalry between America and Canada. And Canada, as usual, is winning.
It's not a rivalry. I mean, you can't say that you're having a rival with somebody who's not even in the same league. It's like Pop Warner versus the NFL. That's football for. I don't know if Canada knows what that is, but football is a game
yes,
where
we have a football league as well. Yes, thank you.
No, I think you're talking about the round one. That's not the right one.
Yes, you're right. The whole world is wrong. America is right. All right.
That's basically been our national opinion for the past 100 years. Yes.
100 years. Yes. But anyways, my rating is definitely This is the first time I've given this one out, I believe. It is run to the theaters. Don't miss it. If you can, find it wherever it is. If you have to travel an hour to watch it, do it. Otherwise, as soon as it comes out on VOD, please watch it. It's my film of the year so far. And like I said to Mason, I don't see anything beating it. So that's my rating. Sir Mason, what is yours?
Yep, I will be uncharacteristic and agree with Daniel. Yes, run to the theater. I am sad to say, by the time you hear this podcast, you will probably not be able to. It's had such a limited run that finding a showtime is terribly difficult. And that's a real shame, because this is a hidden gem of a year, a hidden gem for the year. And it breaks my heart that more people aren't going to see this at all. But if you can see it in theaters, definitely do. Bring your friends. And if you can't, definitely see it on VOD. It's just, even if you don't like SNL or you're not a big SNL head, like I'm not a big SNL head, but I saw this and I was just entranced the entire time. It doesn't give you a second to breathe, and it's all the better for it. I cannot recommend it enough.
Well, I'm glad that we're in agreement again. It's been a while. We were sort of getting into the hang of just disagreeing with each other. So it's nice to just be on the same page for once.
So yeah, I just wanted to disagree with
you. There you go. You did it well. Well, Mason, as always, I'm going to let you sign out. For all of those who haven't seen Saturday Night, it is still in theaters right now. I have included in the link where you can find showtimes on Fandango and Cineplex in Canada and the US. For everyone worldwide, I don't know if it's been there yet or not, but I'm sure it will be soon, or it will be out on VOD. But Mason, once again, thank you for joining me for episode 14. So happy to be on this journey with you, and sign us off, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I am happy to have made this very official record with you as well. If this podcast made you want to run away from Canada into America to find a theater that played this very limited release movie, then be sure to click subscribe or click that follow button, depending on the platform you're on. We're on Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. You can leave us a comment on Spotify. That's new. Be sure to let us know what you thought, who's got the better voice, who's got the better take on the movie that we both agreed on. It's me. That's the answer. It's me. But until next time, I've been Mason.
I've been Daniel.
And we'll see you next time. See you at the movies, yo.